It's been a huge Lions tour, personally, for you, because your favourite player, Gregor Brown, got some minutes on the pitch, got to fly out, got to visit Australia, got to look around, got to sit in a stadium, got to meet James Ryan, and it was a huge, huge time for him, your favourite player, Gregor Brown.
Yeah.
However, it's also been a huge time for, I think, us as Welsh fans to experience winning games, firstly.
Yeah.
Watching a team in red win, it's pretty lovely. It's all right. I hadn't seen this much before.
No.
And also, getting to know some new players, getting to cheer for some players you never normally.
Yeah. One of the great things about the Lions tours, I'm not going to say the best thing. I've done that about 1,000 times in the 50,000 videos we've made on this Lions tour, right? But one of the best things about Lions tour is being able to say phrases like, oh, we should give it to Tommy Freeman right now.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I hope we get Hugh Jones on the ball more often. You know, oh, we need to kick more via James Lowe or whatever. Like, phrases like that you don't get to say normally. And it's made us weirdly more qualified to talk about this from an unbiased perspective, rather, with the fact that there were only 2 Welshmen on this Lions tour, and one of them, in Thomas Williams, sadly only played 2 games and had his tour cut horribly short. And so from a Welsh perspective, Jack Morgan has been fending for himself. But I mean, our stance has been the same ever since we first started talking about this, that in this context, right, Jack Morgan is not Welsh, he is a Lion. It's the same with every player on this tour. And so it's been great to get to know some of these guys. So we wanted to celebrate that a little bit.
However, I think for the sake of talking about Lions from a fan's point of view, right, rather than whatever we are the rest of the time when we're breaking this game down and talking about the rugby side, we're going to discount Jack Morgan. Because, he is the one Welsh player. I think enormous numbers of people have warmed to him. People love him. You look at all the players talking about who they've gone on with. Everyone gets on with him. He's such a polite, lovely boy. And I have felt, I think, more emotional and more invested watching him on this tour than I have any of the Welsh Lions on previous tours, and been much more of them. Like, it being him and being the one guy, and I'm like, no, but it's Jack, innit? And he's like captain of the club I support, and like all of this. Like, it's been a really quite emotional thing, and it has like brought me deeper into this, and perhaps like, you know, the previous tour, which obviously had everything around COVID as another complication. But there was something about being like, it being personal rather than like a national bias there.
To get on this tour whilst playing for this Welsh team is an incredible achievement for both Jack Morgan and Thomas Williams, who made it on. So, like, the pair of them have played out of their skin for the last few years, you know, in the 20-odd games Wales lost in a row. Like, those 2 guys really gave everything.
It was only 18 games in a row.
Sure.
You know. And he didn't play all of them. But yeah, so we're going to discount Jack, we're going to discount Thomas. And just
with
look
that
at
as well, I will add as well, like, I've tried to not get too invested emotionally in Jack Morgan for that, just because I don't want to have Welsh bias on this. I want it to just be like, I love him as a Lion.
I think a big part of it for me is the fact that I remember being like genuinely quite moved when Alan was named captain for the 2013 tour, because I was like, but that's like the guy from my club, like that I've been watching since he was a kid. Like, there's now grown up to be the captain of the Lions. Like, that was a crazy feeling. And like, you know, there's a big element of that, right? Of like, I support a mid-table club, and this guy who came through as a youngster who was like pushing at Justin Tipuric to get into the team more often, and has gone on to be this brilliant Lion.
He's been recognised.
And there is something quite cool about that.
100% agreed.
In a way in which, you know, we met Jack Morgan once, but there feels like a personal connection there. Right? And I think there's something in that.
However, I get that. And Wales is very proud of Jack Morgan and his contributions.
We want to talk about everyone else. We said we want to talk about Jack Morgan and 5 minutes on him. And it probably will be the full video.
Yes.
Right.
Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, so I want to kick off with the first person, the player I think I've warmed to the most, right? That has gone from someone I liked and I enjoyed cheering for, even though they played for, you know, a team who are great rivals, but has always been a favourite of mine within that context. They've now just gone to be one of my favourite players to watch. I love them. Ellis Genge.
Ellis Genge has been so good on the tour, hasn't he?
I haven't warmed to anyone on Lions tour as much as Ellis Genge in a very long time, since maybe like 2009. Like, to me, Ellis Genge has become the honorary second Welsh player. He's Welsh qualified. He's culturally Welsh enough, which Bristol, same deal, innit? Bristol's basically Cardiff 2.0. And he's also got this thing, and I've had this kind of theory on the tour, that him and Jack Morgan have formed this real like kinship.
Those 2 are good mates, aren't they?
They've become like best friends out of nowhere, and they're hanging out all the time. And clearly, Jack doesn't know many people like Ellis. And Ellis is incredibly relieved. He spent all his time in the England team hanging around guys like Mauro Itoje and so on, who are like from perhaps a more affluent background than him. And suddenly he's met someone else who's normal and from a similar like working class background to him. And he's like, mate, and he's brilliant at rugby as well. And so the two of them have become best of friends. And that has been great fun. But also just the way Ellis Genge plays, this pure heart on sleeve, the carrying, the running, the getting involved all the time. There's a few moments of defence, particularly in that first test when he just flew out of line and was constantly putting pressure on, making some huge hits. And the scrum, the way he's so like attritional and aggressive on the pitch, and then off it, he can be the silliest guy, but is also like incredibly warm. You know he's got like proper heart and soul and believes in stuff, and you get a real sense like he's got principles.
He's actually very emotionally intelligent, is what I get from Ellis Genge.
Incredibly so, yeah.
Like you look at looking at the Ultimate Test series, which is excellent, that they've been putting out on the social media for the Lions. The pre-match team talks he does are brilliant, where he can, like Mauro Itoje is an extremely controlled leader. He's extremely calm in everything he does. And Genge, you would think, would just be effing and jeffing and just go like, right, let's kill him, boys, kind of thing. And there's a bit of that, and you need that on a rugby team. But he's extremely like controlled in the way he puts it across, and talks about like picking the right moments to be aggressive and so on. I also love his relationship with Finlay Bealham when they've been rooming together. And again, just like those two are an extremely funny pairing. And you wouldn't have thought that those two would get on so well. But obviously, Finlay Bealham being the straight man of the pair, and Ellis Genge being like taking all of the punchlines out of it, it's an extremely good dynamic.
And all the stuff of Bealham saying, "Oh, we're doing this every night," and then Genge throwing out like, "No, we're not. We've done it once."
Yeah, it's great.
And yeah, it's been great.
Ellis
fun.
Genge is a really great character for rugby generally in England, to be honest. Like, as people who've grown up in England watching rugby, and like, you know, I play for a rugby team. You played as a teenager at a rugby club that was very like, kind of like, I guess, like public school dominated, you know, or private school dominated. Massively so. So you get often surrounded by like a certain type of English rugby fan, and don't get me wrong, that's all fine because you know they're passionate about rugby. Just
it's
as much
not
as
about
else.
them; it's about the fact that there's traditionally been so little room for other people.
Yeah,
right?
It's
so
exclusivity more than anything, isn't it? And Ellis Genge is kind of grown to be the face of not that, of showing that, and the Full Contact Six Nations documentary, the first series they did where they focused on Ellis Genge for a bit, was great because he doesn't have the same personality as most rugby players, and he comes from a bit of a different background, and he's really proud of that, and he wears that on his sleeve, and he's so passionate about being a Lion and being able to represent that, and it's really cool seeing him in a different kind of comfort zone where he's surrounded by obviously Welsh players like that. You know, various members of the Scottish and Irish team come from different kinds of backgrounds as well, and some of the English boys as well, don't get me wrong. But that's been really great and eye-opening to see.
I think there's also something fantastic, something that's bothered me for a long time about English rugby and the media and the fan culture around it, is that at any point they typically have one guy from a traditional working class background in the team. And almost always, that guy gets characterised as Mr. Angry, as the ticking time bomb, who you prod them for a penalty and anything.
Mike Brown,
Kyle Sinclair, Ellis Genge. Any point over the last 15 years, right? There's been that player in the team, and it's been the working class player. There's been like this largely, perhaps more affluent set of fans and set of press.
Even to an extent, like, I know he's not working class, but like Owen Farrell having a northern accent.
Owen Farrell, definitely. I think that's big time in there.
He comes from a working class background, obviously.
Yeah, obviously, you know, his parentage, Andy Farrell does. And it's different when your dad is like one of the greatest rugby league players of all time.
But I think that having like the northern accent has weirdly characterised him.
I think
like
Farrell slips onto
being
that
an outsider.
Yeah, and I think all of those players, maybe other than Mike Brown, overcame that and developed as people, but that reputation followed them regardless.
Genge's language is just so far in the past.
This tour, people have seen more of Ellis Genge, and those documentary stuff has helped, but also the way in which he's conducted himself on the pitch and the way in which, as you say, he has picked his moments. And I think it's been really good for breaking that down, because I think it's really important. Like, it's something that's annoyed me for a long time, is the fact that that's become the archetype, the stereotype of the working class player in the England team. And I am really glad, again, as someone that's, you know, grew up as a, you know, from a kind of a state school, you know, like in England, going and like that not being, there not being room for that, and there not being room for people that aren't like either incredibly aggressive, and that's how they get in the team, or this. So like, yeah, Ellis Genge, I think,
like, I think it's safe to say that growing up playing rugby, we both felt a little bit looked down upon by
massively, yeah.
some members of teams that we played in growing up. Like, that was wild. And, you know, obviously...
A part of that was because I was physically the smallest player.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and I was
on there.
fucking shit
Yeah.
before I moved clubs to a very inclusive and brilliant community club. But yeah, that's obviously a different story in itself.
signed for Saracens.
For a different day, yes, indeed. But yeah, I've loved that about Ellis Genge. He's been such a character of this tour.
You pull one out.
Okay, so again, staying in a similar department, let's say, one guy that I've absolutely loved cheering for and embracing as my guy, and most importantly, watching his contribution to the documentaries, is Pierre Schumann. He seems such a good lad. And in writing poetry about the Lions, who saw that one coming? And most importantly, again, this is definitely probably going to be our mum's all-time favourite Squidge videos, talking about which Lions we've ended up growing to love. Yeah. And she's been a big fan of Shuey and his poetry and his sense of humour, and the episode of him and Tommy Freeman trying to get on and trying to bond, and Duan van der Merwe sitting awkwardly in the corner trying to like join in with the whole thing. And it's great. I've loved Pierre Schumann.
Did you hear the story Genge told about him?
No.
And I'll cut it short, right, because I can't tell it like Ellis Genge. But they were rooming together, and it comes to like end of the night. They were preparing to go to bed. They're both kind of lying there, and Shuey says to him like, "Oh, I should turn the light out. Should I go to bed?" And Genge goes, "Yeah, sure enough." So he goes to turn the light switch off. Schumann gets up, turns it off, and then strips completely naked. Then has a thought and comes and stands by Ellis Genge, completely nude. Like, and bear in mind, like the bed's at a level where it's basically Genge's head is level with his bits, and just like has a chat to him for a few minutes before going and getting in bed. And Genge says he's a weird bloke. He's a weird bloke.
I love that. I love that.
So, things you get up to on tour.
Yeah, indeed. Also, can I just throw out another one whilst we're there? Speaking of people who are notoriously good tourists, and somebody who just on the pitch has been brilliant, that I've really enjoyed and like warmed to and got behind. And yeah, off the pitch, clearly everyone gets on with and finds hilarious. Mac Hansen.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to love Mac Hansen.
Including Andy Farrell.
Yeah.
Who, again, brought him out to do media twice because they know he'll get a rise out of him. Did that thing where Hansen interviewed Farrell. Like, that being a dynamic that really exists of being able to safely throw to him. You look at it as well, and there was something in the first of the Ultimate Test, right, where Andy Farrell did an exercise where he pulled out individual players to go, tell me a guy you've met in the last, who played with the first time over this training session, and tell me what's impressed you about them.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really smart way of kind of bringing players in and so on. But he threw it to Hansen first. Because he knew he could rely on him to say something and to speak publicly and to bring something up that was articulate and emotional and accurate.
And
so,
witty as well.
Yeah, exactly. And like, even worst case scenario, he'd say something funny and it'd bring the lads closer together.
Yeah.
Or he'd say something emotionally intelligent.
Really
and like,
good point.
so a really useful tourist as well, Mike Hansen there.
Yeah.
Even though he hasn't necessarily had the game time in recent weeks. And had a couple of really good games on tour though.
Andy Farrell is a name that 100% is up there as well.
Yeah,
like, I think we'll talk about Andy Farrell a bit separately elsewhere, but just watching all those videos and like how he communicates and everything, I'm fascinated
While we're
by him.
talking about coaches, Alid Walters, who conditioning coach, was regarded already as the best conditioning coach in the world. I remember having the conversation with Ben Youngs, off air when doing Love Rugby once, and him mentioning that no one has ever motivated him better than Alid Walters in terms of getting more out of him when he was doing like gym sessions and so on. And I think watching a lot of that Ultimate Test back, you get a sense of that. You get a better sense of him and how funny he is and how lively he is and how he keeps it light, and he isn't just motivating people in like a feel the burn, keep going, be better than yourself. He makes people laugh while they're doing conditioning work, and that like really endeared me to him and makes me wish he wasn't afraid of being Welsh so much. And he's called Alid Walters, he's got a thick West Wales accent, and yet he refused to come back and work in Wales.
Bizarre. I mean, I can't blame him.
What are you doing? What are you doing, Alid? Come back. But I thought he's come across really well in all of this, and I think obviously got teams that were conditioned separately for how many other clubs, never mind Four Nations, into one cohesive feeling team that felt conditioned for the same game plan.
Yeah.
So incredibly impressive from that point of view, but also everything I've seen of him in terms of the little bit he did of players having to talk about themselves for 30 seconds and then blowing the whistle immediately, saying like, I'll blow it when I get bored, and blowing it before anyone said anything after the first word. Really good bit. Like, he's been great fun.
Yeah, him and John Fogerty both seem like really good characters. I like the pair of them. Okay, so before you throw out your next name, I just want to throw to a side bit of this, okay? So I put out a bit of a call on social media earlier, asking this question to people who follow us on the channel, both on Twitter and on TikTok. I put something out just to say, who, other than a player that you usually support, so someone who's not from your usual nation, granted, I didn't say club, so that could be a side part of this. Bath fans potentially loving Finn Russell, or potentially there's certain Munster fans who don't like the Leinster players anyway.
Sure.
You know, there's potential angles to this that could be set off. However, I put out a general call for who has been the player on this tour that you've warmed to the most, that you've really enjoyed cheering for, who's been your favourite, not best, but favourite player on this tour. And now, I would like you to guess who you think, let's say top 3 in order.
Top 3, okay.
You think that have come out just at time of just before we started recording.
In no particular order, right, if I'm to throw out 3 players, I would say Jack Morgan is in there,
Okay.
in the top 3. Ellis Genge, I think, will also be in there. I think a lot of people have warmed to Genge. Mario Toje, I think, always popular. Tommy Freeman, I expect to be higher up, but I think actually perhaps a couple of... I think he's looked quite tired by the end of the Test series, and I think maybe that's hurt him a little bit. I'm trying to think if there's any others who'd be clear.
Well, what I will tell you, Genge won by a landslide.
That makes sense.
He received about twice as many votes as the second place.
Wow, okay.
And this is inside like 3-4 hours of me putting up both posts, right? So Genge won by a landslide. Like so many people from all 3 non-English nations have said, like, I love this guy. He's brilliant, which is great considering, as I said, like, there have been times where he's been quite unpopular because he's a feisty character. He's very passionate and fired up when he's playing for England, and people will very easily mistake that with him being an arsehole, which he's not. He seems like a perfectly sound bloke who's just very passionate about playing for whoever he plays for, okay? And then there is a joint second place at time of recording. Like, it has been bouncing between 2 players, second and third, the whole time. And then at time of recording, 1 late vote came in that made this equal.
Okay. So is Schumann up there?
No, not
No,
Schumann.
not Schumann. So
surprisingly, I don't think I had a vote for Freeman, weirdly. Had a few for Schumann. Surprisingly, like quite a few votes for Thomas Williams, which is quite nice to see.
Finn Russell. I forgot Finn Russell completely.
Yeah, Finn Russell and Jack Morgan were the 2 other players that were joint there between other fans of other nations other than Wales and Scotland, which is great. Like, Finn Russell is one of the most entertaining players on the planet. I think a lot of just rugby fans have warmed to Finn Russell before. They don't need a Lions tour to make them love Finn Russell.
I kind of discounted Finn because I loved him already.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what people keep telling me in the comments, people keep saying about how much we hate
If I
Finn
watch
Russell.
Scotland, I'll say, come on, Finn.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've been such a fan of Finn Russell for such a long time, like upwards of 10 years at this point.
Yeah.
So it feels weird to say, like, oh, I warmed him on this tour because I didn't have to.
Yeah. Jack Morgan, I'm slightly surprised by, but very, very pleasantly, but I think people have seen how much he gives on the pitch.
Callon.
Callon indeed. And that also off it, he's, as you mentioned, he's quite a warm character, but clearly will do anything for his mates.
He's incredibly polite
Yeah.
and warm, and he is very supportive.
Yeah.
And Leon Blood and Mud, the podcast, described him recently as like, he's the ideal boy you want your daughter to come home with, you know, and he's incredibly polite, he's handsome, he's like very, you know, gentle and calm, but also, you know, you've seen how he's built, like if there's any trouble, he could beat anyone up.
yeah. But also, like, it will have been quite challenging for him because he's gone there with like 1 mate who he's played with before, and then he's had to leave after a couple of weeks.
He's not an extroverted guy.
No, exactly. And so the fact that he's been able to do that, but I think, once again, he's one of those people that you warm to because of how he plays.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's willing to go a bit above and beyond for you just because he clearly cares and he shows that in the way he plays. So I like that other people have seen that and have said, I will miss having him on my team in the way we do about a lot of other players.
The one other note that keeps coming up in all the behind the scenes stuff, right, is the other players, particularly the English players, keep talking about how thick his accent is. And 1, it's not that thick. It's really not that thick. 2, you know the player with the thickest accent on this Lions tour is?
Finn Russell.
It's Mario Toje.
Oh, it's Mario Toje.
It's Mario Toje. He's got by far the most pronounced accent. He's the most RP man I've ever seen.
It is true.
And
he's posher than
no
the
one's
king,
bringing that up.
man.
Yeah, no one's bringing that up, but that's fine because, you know, whatever. Anyway, that's beside the point. Okay, anyone else get like shout outs? Anyone else get mentioned?
Yeah, Ty Burn and Tom Curry, but I
Oh,
think
yeah.
a lot of that was test series related. So we will do that in a separate video talking about the on-field performances. But I think a lot of people have grown a lot of respect for them. As I say, Thomas Williams got quite a few votes for a guy who only played 2 games. So you imagine he'd have been a popular character if he stuck around a bit longer, bless him. Sione Tuipulotu and in particular, Hugh Jones. I think he was the 4th place. Like, people love Hugh Jones, like, as a character. And just, like, as a style of play, like, aside from how good he is exciting to watch.
He is.
Like, he's fun to get behind because he's fast, he's elusive, like, he defends really well, like, he makes big hits, he offloads a lot.
Yeah.
Like, as a rugby fan, if you don't break the game down at all, like if we remove all the pretentious bollocks, we talk about the game all the time, right? If you sat down on the sofa watching the game with a beer and enjoying it, Hugh Jones is the guy you get behind. Yeah. He's the perfect rugby player to just cheer for. And so I love that as a pick.
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic. The way in which the 2 interviews I've seen him give, he's talked a lot about Lions history as well and who else has worn that 13 jersey and how honoured he is to be in it.
Yeah.
That endears him to me a bit as well. You know, the fact that he's brought up the O'Driscolls and the Jonathan Davises and, you know, the Will Greenwoods and whoever's of the world, Jeremy Guscott. Like, that's been great on top of it.
Perfect that a Scotsman with an English accent who was raised in England with the name Hugh Jones plays for the Lions. Like, you're covering all bases there, my friend.
Can I bring up the other 13 though?
Hit me.
There's a guy I've enormously warmed to.
Oh, yes.
Gary Ringrose.
Yeah. So much respect for that guy.
Previously, I really rated as a player. I thought he was a great player. I also thought he was kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been enamoured by Gary Ringrose, right? I've respected him. I thought he's a great player. But I've never gone like, God, I can't wait to watch Gary Ringrose play today.
Yeah.
I've gone like, well, Gary Ringrose delivered another work-like performance this afternoon. But on this tour, right, one, him being on your team, you appreciate it more. I mean, people talking about Toby Fartown the same way in past tours. You appreciate him just being flawless in defence, the lines of running he hits, whether it's with the ball or without it, the support angles, the way he'll pop up and he scored quite a few tries on this tour from just getting in the right place at the right time.
Just makes smart decisions every time he gets the ball as well.
All of that, like, sometimes it's nice to have someone really boring in the 13 channel.
Someone who carries the ball and doesn't lose it in contact is quite nice when you're supporting that team.
When you're used to Wales.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, everything with the concussion.
Yeah.
And that just moved it to another level for me. The way in which he gave up what would have been one of the pinnacles of his career, one of the biggest games he's ever played in, and he turned it down because he put safety first. And he set a kind of precedent, I think, will be raised for decades to come.
Safety and the team as well. Because he would not have played as well as Hugh Jones if he was carrying a concussion.
Yeah, he will not have played as well as he possibly could have.
Yeah.
So he put everything else first. He put safety, he put the precedent of this first. Yeah. He put himself and his long-term future first, and he put the team first.
And supporters and kids who are watching who might not know that that's a thing.
Oh, the message that Will has sent, there will have been at least one young player there who will pick up a concussion later and go, no, but Gary Ringrose stood down from his game
I'm
for
going
the Lions,
to tell my
so I'm going
coach
to do the same. Yeah,
that
exactly.
I feel
like,
sick or concussed.
I think it was a genuine historic moment, and I think he has there single-handedly done more to raise awareness and raise how seriously you're taking concussions than any other player.
He's got my respect for the rest of his rugby career for that. For the fact beyond. He did that for the Lions and beyond, So fair play, like what a guy. He's 30 as well, so he might not go on another Lions tour. Like I obviously really hope he does now. I hope he has another great 4 years of international rugby so I can cheer for him and
he's been in
the test team.
He's been in the mix for 2, obviously picked up an injury on 1 and then missed out on selection on another. And then, as you said, like 34, he's the sort of player who can adapt his game and play even when he loses some pace. But like incredibly bold thing for him to do, and huge respect for him.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of, I think Hugo Keenan is another guy I've really enjoyed. Again, he's one of those players that you appreciate him a little bit more when he's on your team. And the amount of ground he covers. And you made the comparison before when watching him to Lee Halfpenny. And not just in terms of like what he's like as a player, because they are very different players, but in terms of how much you you thank them when you're watching them play. Because we watched Lee Halfpenny playing at fullback for Wales growing up, and we just took for granted like, oh, if they put in a great kick, Lee Halfpenny might still catch it. He will take the high ball. He will kick the goal. He will get put in a decent reply. He'll run a good support line. He'll make a tackle, like a last-ditch try-saving tackle or whatever, right? And then Lee Halfpenny retires. You get Liam Williams for a bit, fine. Another like a top, like world-class fullback, fine, whatever. Liam Williams then retires, and you're stuck in a bit of a rut where it's like, well, you've got Cam Winnett who's trying everything, he's playing well. You've got Blair Murray who's like, making a lot of breaks, but sometimes makes errors.
Built a dance floor on the pitch and is currently doing the conga.
Yeah, exactly. And you get players like that, and then suddenly you watch Hugo Keenan again, and he's the fullback you're cheering for, and you're like, oh, this is how I used to live.
Yeah.
I used to just feel like this. I forgot that I took this for granted that someone could just cover the ground.
As a guy who's got used to watching Blair Murray as your fullback, who puts on a party hat before he goes up to compete for a high ball and starts blowing party poppers all the time in order to run with it, there is something incredibly reassuring about just having someone who takes high balls, who covers kicks, who puts in good reply kicks himself. He's been superb, and I've enjoyed watching him as a big fan of technical fullback play.
Exactly.
And it is the one area where I really like a boring player, or one of a number of positions. I really like a boring 10, I really like a boring fullback.
Yeah.
Sue me. But Hugo Keenan, hugely enamoured by. Likewise, right? Someone I've always really enjoyed watching, and particularly this year's Six Nations, I think went in my estimations again in terms of how much I personally enjoy him. Tom Curry.
Yeah.
Who
I think we'll come back to Tom Curry when we do our own.
We'll talk more
stuff.
about him there,
but watching him play when we went to Dublin in the stadium just completely changed my perception of Tom Curry. Not just watching him live, but watching him up close and seeing what he does. And he's like a wind-up toy. He's like one of those Hot Wheels cars that he just doesn't stop.
Pull him back.
Yeah, and he just goes around the field, does a figure of 8 and just kills people left, right, and centre. And just again, as a rugby fan, right? When you first hear of rugby, what are you told it is? It's a sport where you try and get the ball in one direction and you try and smash each other along the way. You have to take each other down to stop them from doing it, and you have to try and steal the ball right in the process so you can do the same back. Tom Curry encapsulates what that is. Again, if you remove all analysis, remove all the intricacies of the game, right? Somebody who can run into people as hard as he can, as many times as he can, that is what a rugby player is meant to do and meant to look like. It's crazy.
If you ask someone who knows nothing about rugby to imagine a rugby player, right? I imagine they imagine one of two players, and Tom Curry lands 50% exactly in the middle, which is either massive ogre dude who's addicted to injuring themselves and throwing themselves at everything. Either Shabal or Sam Underhill, of enormous dude, hulking, throws himself at everything, no brain between the ears because they're constantly concussed,
no teeth,
knocking themselves out, all of this, or they imagine a very sweeping, handsome, short hair, posh boy. And Tom Curry managed to be both of those. He managed to be this ogre who's throwing his body at himself all the time, and yet also have this the odd touches on this tour that he's had with his hands and ability. The try he scored in the second test and popping up in the first test, but popping up and doing all those things. I don't know. I think he's been a hugely endearing presence.
Yeah.
We'll talk about him more as we get on, but please.
I've got
else?
2 more names myself. One of them is Alex Mitchell.
Yeah.
Has been part of the matchday squad for every single game of this tour. I love that he got a proper go in the third test as well. After Tate McDermott scored, that they gave him a proper go. He's just been great. And he clearly gives everything defensively, which I think is something that I've noticed more for having him on my team, is how much he puts himself about when his team don't have the ball. Yeah. His kicking game has obviously improved in the last couple of years, and that's something he's been very, very good at. But again, just he plays an entertaining brand of rugby, and he likes to play on the front foot and get the best out of his forwards. And we all knew this before he came on the tour. But it's just quite nice seeing that knitted around elements of the Irish pack and, seeing Finn Russell playing outside him and so on. It's good fun.
Yeah. Maro Itoje, standing item. Every 4 years, I come back to Maro Itoje, so I'm going to kind of blow past him. But every 4 years, I go no, Maro Itoje is the best player on the planet. What are we doing here?
He's a great captain.
He's brilliant. He has been a great captain as well.
Oh, Triz, I forgot somebody as well.
And please.
Dan Sheehan.
Dan Sheehan, was exactly who I was about to move on to.
Yeah, go on.
I was about to move on to Dan Sheehan because he's been great. And he's been exactly what I expected. I've been watching the Six Nations and kind of having a moment going he gets to be our guy in a few months' time. Because he does everything, right? Yeah. And obviously he's not the best scrummaging hooker, but on every other level, he is the dream in terms of his ability with the ball, defensively, the way in which he rushes out the line as well. The most accurate line-out thrower in this tour. Just fantastic.
Yeah.
And also seems like a lovely guy as well, and really loved being a Lion. I loved being a part of that. And a really fun captain. And really moved and slightly baffled by the fact he was Lions captain for that one game.
Yeah, really enjoyable. Again, another couple of players that our mum's really enjoyed. Obviously, she loves Bundy Arcee. I think he's her favourite player.
Yeah.
And Sione Tuipulotu has been a real, source of enjoyment for her as well. However, one more player. Oh, Joe McCarthy's been really good as well. One more player that I want to give my dues to.
I wonder if this is the same player that I'm about to bring up as my last one.
He's wee.
No one has ever done more in 20 minutes for the Lions.
Mate, Darcy Graham's 16-minute Lions career will always be famous to me.
Honestly, he played less than 20 minutes for the Lions, and he almost became a test contender in that time.
Yeah, I love that he was still there for the third test. By the way. They literally put out a press release that him, Ewan Ashman, Gregor Brown, and Tom Clarkson had all flown home, and he was still there.
Thomas Clarkson was also still there.
Oh, was he? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. How did you feel about Gregor Brown flying home?
Fine. I'm glad that
he was physically closer to you now.
Yes.
As your favourite player.
Yeah.
Darcy Graham, right, got the ball, I think, 5 times over his Lions career and scored a try, almost got 2 more, beat a number of defenders, went into touch twice, made a great tackle.
Giggled a lot.
Looked like he was having the time of his life.
Yeah.
Like, rarely has a player looked more joyous playing in a midweek Lions game.
Yeah.
But he looked over the moon, and then obviously how devastated he was when he went off. Really added something, I think, to in terms of context and joy to the 20 minutes he did get.
Yeah.
And I so wish we had got A, more time there, but B, when they did change that wing spot in the 3rd test, perhaps he could have come in instead of Blair Kinghorn.
That would have been so good. I would have loved that. I also realised we've got through this without talking about Elliot Daly.
Oh, yeah.
He was so good.
Yeah.
And I warmed to him.
Daly.
I've probably started to embrace him as a low-key Lions legend as well. A streets won't forget Lions legend.
He's a midweek Lions legend.
Yeah, having been on 3 tours, but made the test team in 2. And had a very good shot
Very
on
possibly
this one.
could have this one,
Yeah, because he was just great in every game he played.
Yeah.
And then, importantly, he broke his arm. There was some very funny documentary footage of him in the hospital having to spell his name out. And they were like, how did your injury? It was like, oh, playing rugby. Anyway, and very importantly, he stayed out there on the piss for another couple of weeks. Elliot Daly, just supporting the boys. Also, the speech he gave where he was like, if anyone needs anything from me, I don't know why the fuck you would. You can call me, I guess.
Highlight of his tour for me being the first time in the Ultimate Test, Pollock lost Bill. And Pollock went, I left him somewhere. And then Daly just jumped and went, you left him somewhere. Just very dry, very on top of it. Clearly very funny, naturally.
I fear if we carry on any longer, we will list the whole squad.
We will list the whole squad. We'll list the whole squad.
Basically, long story short, I've loved this Lions squad.
Word as well for James Ryan.
Yes.
Who we've given a lot of flack to personally, myself
you know what?
included.
Fair play.
And that second test, he came out with sensational. And he shut me right up.
He's done nothing but play well.
But
on this tour exclusively.
On this tour, I thought he was fine. Yeah. But Scott Cummings, who we haven't really mentioned, but had a great tour.
I love Scott Cummings.
Great fun, and I think a lot of people came in he's the Scotland knock, isn't he? He's Scott Cummings.
Yeah.
And he's then grown, and people have got a sense of who he is
I love
and
him.
How great he is and how fantastic he's been. Really excited to see the sort of player he is at Glasgow next season.
Yeah.
Or if he grows, and I think he probably will go up another gear.
Yeah.
But James Ryan, I thought we would have both had as the bottom pecking of the lot.
Fair play to the guy.
Then comes into the second test and is brilliant and really shut me up, right? And it's something I love, is when a player completely proves me wrong.
Yeah.
I love it. I remember not rating Jack Nowell and then being like, oh, this kid's electric. And he then became a real favourite of mine, right?
Yeah.
And it's happened countless times where I've not really rated a guy, then they've done something or they've had a couple of games and I've gone oh, I was wrong there. I was just wrong.
Fair play to the
James
guy.
Ryan doing that to me, I'm always a big fan of anyone who can shut me up properly.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, all of the commenters can now acknowledge us as the massive James Ryan fan channel that we always have been. Always loved James Ryan.
Yeah.
But no, fair play to the guy. Nothing but respect for him for playing well in the Lions jersey. It's what was demanded of him and he delivered, so fair play.
How would you rate this tour in terms of Gregor Browns out of 10?
It had one Gregor Brown, and that was all of the Gregor Browns I needed.
So it had 100% of Gregor Browns?
Yes.
So that's an 100% tour?
Yes, 100% of my favourite player on this tour.
Were Gregor Brown.